All right, Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m., youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, the Panther-Lair Show live and coming at you on a Thursday night as opposed to our typical Wednesday nights due to the Pitt basketball game last night. What was I going to say about that? Panthers got a win against Eastern Kentucky, a game that looked very close for the first 26 minutes and then not close at all for the final 14 minutes. I'm sure we've got a lot to say about that game, and we'll take your comments and questions about it as the Panthers got a 40-point blowout win over the Colonels last night. And that was exciting. And I think there's a lot to talk about in that regard, rotationally, personnel-wise, that game specifically. There's a lot we can talk about there. Volleyball match today, Pitt hangs on. I'm not going to use the cliche. I'm not going to say survive in advance because, damn it, everybody's saying survive in advance. And I'm not going to say it. They hung on. You know what I mean? They to some extent, just barely held on. And they needed a couple mistakes from Oregon at the very end to win. Well, that's to take nothing away from the fact that Olivia Babcock had 31 kills and Rachel Fairbanks had like 54 assists, and three girls had, double doubles. I mean, it was a great performance, but it was also a wildly inconsistent performance and a match that really could have gone either way. I mean, obviously you get to a fifth set, it could go either way, but the Panthers hold on. They advance. They'll face Kentucky in the Elite Eight on Saturday with an opportunity to move on to the Final Four for the fourth consecutive year. We can talk about that a little bit. The transfer portal is rolling. Pitt will have some visitors coming in this weekend. We've been talking about that a lot on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. We can talk about that a little bit here as well. Those transfer portal possibilities, those transfer portal options, those transfer portal priorities, as well as what Pitt has coming back and who they're going to hold on to and what that is going to look like. All those different elements that go into the postseason nowadays. We can talk about that. And there is the game above Sports Bowl against Toledo in Detroit the day after Christmas. If I gave you each of those individual elements, how would you rank them 1 to 4 on whatever scale you want? Like by whatever measure you want to use, how would you rank those 4 elements? The game above Sports Bowl, Toledo, Detroit, day after Christmas. 1 through 4. How would you rank those elements? Because we haven't gotten a chance to hang out here on the live stream since the bowl game was announced. We didn't do a post-bowl announcement live stream. I can only imagine how many people would have poured in for that one. Yeah, when you go 7-5, you go to Detroit. That's how it goes. But shout out to me. My preseason prediction is still looking very strong after taking a real hit at midseason. And I've mentioned this a number of times. I've referenced back to it. My preseason prediction for this team, if only because it looked like I was way, off base when they started the season 7-0. But here we are. And, I said it a bunch of times right here on this live stream. I think Jim just kind of agreed with me at times when I said it, or at least, agreed that I was saying things that this felt like an 8-5 team to me, a team that would go 8-4 in the regular season and lose the Pinstripe Bowl to a Big Ten team, or a team that would go 7-5 in the regular season and beat a MAC team in Detroit. And by golly, here they are, 7-5, going to Detroit to face a MAC team. And maybe they'll even win. Who knows? It's hard to even, and we'll bring Jim in a second to we'll bring Jim in a second to get his thoughts on this, and I'll take your thoughts too. Jump in the chat screen over here to have your comments and questions here on the show. And I want to know what you think about this right off the bat. Like, we know the bowl games don't count for anything. They're exhibition games. They go on the record, but it doesn't matter. You're not playing for anything other than trying to win the final game of the season. Do they mean even less when you've got transfers leaving the team? You've got seniors opting out, even though Pat Narduzzi said 90% of the seniors, he thinks 90% of Pitt seniors will play in this game. Like, do they mean even less to you? Are they even less representative of the season? Because you've lost, in some cases, teams have lost like a quarter of their roster at this point, between seniors opting out, guys going to the NFL, transfers leaving. Like, they have maybe a quarter of the roster they played the regular season with. So if you go to your bowl game and win under those circumstances, does it really say anything about your season at all? It's going to go on your final record. Pitt will be 8-5 or 7-6, unless by some grace of God this game doesn't happen. Their record will be 8-5 or 7-6. I wonder if there's some scenario where they go to so many overtimes that the city of Detroit is like, stop doing this. And they finish 7-5-1, or the Lions are like, you two teams are leaving way too much bad mojo on our field. We are way good this year, and you are like just putting too much bad karma on the field, too much bad football on the field. Maybe they call the game and they go 7-5-1. But anyway, it's going to go on the record, but it doesn't really tell you anything about the season, I think. It doesn't really tell you anything about who the team was, or anything. I think it's even more, or it's even less relevant than it was before. Now, if Pitt ends up with most of their starters playing and maybe just missing one or two guys due to injury, and they don't have many seniors go out, then okay, maybe it's something a little different. But I'm curious what this bowl game means to you. If you're a Pitt fan, you've got the game above Sports Bowl here on the day after Christmas in Detroit against Toledo. What does it mean to you? Good or bad? Well, I shouldn't even say good or bad, because I know that if they lose, it'll be clear evidence that this program is bottoming out and it'll never get better. And it's, the worst thing ever. And they probably should consider dropping football, and hell, maybe even stop being a university altogether. And if they win, it doesn't matter, because all they did was beat a MAC team in Detroit. So it's kind of a lose/don't win scenario, no matter what happens. I understand that. But is there anything you're interested in from this game? Is there anything you can take from this game? Is there anything compelling to you whatsoever about the game above Sports Bowl in Detroit on the day after Christmas against Toledo? I'd like to hear your thoughts. All right, let's bring Jim in, and we'll get to the important questions with Jim as well. Jim, Josh Newark wants to know, best Detroit movie setting, RoboCop, 8 Mile, or Beverly Hills Cop?
I don't know. I feel like I watched Beverly Hills Cop not too long ago. And, come to think of it, I went to the National Museum of African American History, and they have his jacket like from the movie, like on one of the displays. So I went with Chris Carter and Noah down at the ACC tournament last year. So that was like one of the memories I had of being at the museum. So
in where was that? Like DC or someplace?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So here's the problem with this question is not that much of the movie takes place in Detroit.
No.
So I don't know if it really fits in this question. I mean, out of these three, RoboCop is the best movie. Beverly Hills Cop is pretty great. 8 Mile, I mean, I don't even think he's Eminem sang that Lose Yourself song in the movie, right? I don't think that song ever actually appears in the movie, unless I'm mistaken.
No, I don't think it does, because it's kind of more of a rap battle more so than him singing the song. Yeah.
Right. Although I do appreciate it that it's like a song about the movie, which is something that doesn't happen often enough anymore. There used to be songs that were specifically written for a movie, like the songs from The Lion King, for an example. But I think they did it with adult live action, not adult films, but films for adults, live action movies. I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. I feel like the song that plays over the closing credits of First Blood was done exclusively for the movie First Blood, because I can't imagine that anyone ever had the idea to make that song with. Do you know the song that plays over the closing credits of First Blood?
No.
Have you ever seen First Blood, Jim?
Oh yeah, all three.
Okay. I mean, you can say no, it's fine, but but First Blood is awesome. It's legitimately a great movie. It's not just a bullets and blood fest. It's a legitimately great. Not like the subsequent Rambo movies would become. I mean, it's far more nuanced than that. And then it pauses on, I think, on a freeze frame during the closing credits, and this song starts playing, and it's the corniest thing. It's great. It might be a Frank Stallone song, actually. All right, but I digress. No, RoboCop's the best movie here. Beverly Hills Cop was not not enough happened in Detroit for me to consider that a Detroit movie. Green mentions Detroit Rock City. It's one of my favorite stoner movies. That was a great movie. I enjoyed that. I feel like I saw that a lot of times. Although I couldn't tell you anyone who was in it.
I mean, last time I probably watched it was like 15 years ago. It's not on the regular rotation these days.
Was Edward Furlong in that? He was. Edward Furlong was in that movie. And Natasha Lyonne. Okay, those are about the only people I know other than like Gene Simmons.
It's a good song.
Shannon Tweed. Okay. What's that?
It's a good song too, right?
Oh yeah. It's maybe my favorite Kiss song, and I don't like many Kiss songs. So all right. Anyway, what is there from this game, Jim? Like what's something Pitt fans? I don't want to say why should Pitt fans tune into it, but what are the compelling storylines here about this year's Game Above Sports Bowl? Can we just call it the Sports Bowl for short? Could we just be like, oh, they're playing in the Sports Bowl this year?
It feels very generic. I don't know what Game Above is. I didn't even look it up yet because it used to, like, this is the third time Pitt has played in this bowl, and it's been something different every time.
Yeah, pizza to what did Quick Lane do? Was that a convenience store or were they like auto parts?
It kind of feels auto-y being in Detroit.
Yeah. So pizza to auto parts to so the thing is, if you look up Game Above, you said you haven't looked it up, so you don't know what they do or what they are. Right. When you look it up, you will find that you still have no idea what they are or what they do. Like it's total, like that kind of vague, like I guess venture capital or something. So it was started by, and you were on the Zoom today. What was the guy's name? Keith Shepard or Ken Shepard or
he's the guy that kind of chimed in at the very end, right?
The end or the beginning. Yeah, I think he might have spoke at the beginning too. But anyway, he founded the company. He's an Eastern Michigan alum. He has this like Capital Holdings company and started Game Above largely as a way to rally Eastern Michigan donors. Okay. Then it branched out to become some nebulous, vague entity that has a purpose, allegedly, according to their website. They're making a movie about George Gervin. And they've got all these, I believe, in the complete nonsense speak. They have verticals. They have verticals. So they have Game Above Entertainment, and they have Game Above. They have like two others, and they have Game Above Sports. And there's still never really any concrete indication of what they do. They're trying to elevate the game and do something or other. And I don't know. And again, you could look at their website. You'll have no idea. So I want to call it the Sports Bowl presented by Game Above. But really, Game Above Sports is like an entity within Game Above. So there's Game Above Entertainment. There's Game Above. So my dream of just being able to refer to this as the Sports Bowl, which I think would be hilarious, even better than calling it the Pizza Bowl. You can't, it's not really that. It's the Game Above Sports Bowl. Anyway, so getting that out of the way, the fact that we have no idea what this company does. Somehow they have money, this group that started as a collection of Eastern Michigan donors, which is weird. There's a weird connection with Eastern Michigan as well. It started after Heather left. They started in like 2020 or something. That this guy started trying to funnel money or started trying to raise money for Eastern Michigan. And now they're sponsoring a bowl game for at least 1 year. Like, who knows how long this will keep going? Probably as long as they need somewhere to put the money. Then we'll see what it becomes. But anyway, what are the compelling storylines for Pitt fans for the Game Above Sports Bowl in Detroit the day after Christmas against Toledo?
I don't have a whole lot to bring to the table there. I mean, because we did the press conference today. We kind of tried to ask Pat Narduzzi, okay, what's going on? And, what are the benefits of this game? Does it, mean much? What would a win mean today? Or what does the extra practice time do? Or just playing in that extra game around Christmas time? And he kind of just said the answers you would expect. It's like every game's important. We want to win this game. It's another opportunity for our fans to watch us play or come see us play. It's a chance for freshmen to get on the field. I think he highlighted Tyreek Robinson and said he's going to have a big role on December 26th. So I don't know. I mean, I guess what it is kind of the first look of half of next year's team because, you know, half of next year's team is probably not on the roster yet. I think they're probably still in the transfer portal. So I don't know. I mean, you're going to see some freshmen play that probably didn't play a lot. Some of the main guys are still going to play. Like, there's like no reason why like Kyle Lewis is going to sit out and stuff like that. So it's another chance to see him play. And for lack of anything better, like everyone always complains, there's too many bowl games, and I'm like, I don't know. I watch them. Like it's football. It's football. You're going to be sitting at home. It's Christmas time. Nobody does anything between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. You're in your pajamas. You're watching football, and just so happens your favorite team's playing.
Hey, how about that? It's interesting about Robinson too. So there's a question for tomorrow's Morning Pit mailbag. And somebody asked, predict the starting offense for the bowl game. And I'm like, well, that's really interesting. That's an interesting question. I think the offensive line, I think it's Ryan Baer, Ryan Jacoby, Lyndon Cooper, BJ Williams. Isaiah Montgomery is my guess on right tackle. Could be Jackson Brown. Could be Terrence Enos. I don't know. But I think wide receiver is interesting because Sensor Lee is already done. Dejon Reynolds went in the transfer portal. Konate Mumfield. So he tweets earlier this week announcing his entry into the NFL draft. Do you take that to mean he is not playing in this bowl game?
That's how I took it. But in one of Narduzzi's answers today, he's like, we should have nearly everyone, or if not everyone, all of our seniors available to play. So that I was like, because I thought Mumfield wasn't playing.
Didn't he say 90%?
He did say 90, but like at the end, he's like, but I think, nearly all of them are going to play. So I was like, all right. I thought Mumfield was done.
I just don't know why you would tweet that if you intend to play another game. Like, he's out of eligibility. So he's not foregoing any further seasons at Pitt. The only thing he would be potentially foregoing by declaring his entry into the NFL draft is this game, right? That is the only thing. Like, I don't know why you would tweet it. And I've tried to ask around. I even asked some people at Pitt, I'm like, would you take this to mean he's not playing the bowl game? And they're like, well, I don't know if it's really definitive from that or not. I'm like, and I tried to ask some different people. I'm like, hey, what? Nobody seems to want to answer this question. And it's like, who cares? You are or you aren't, and it's fine. It doesn't matter either way. Like, no matter what you say today is not going to, it's not like you can just pretend that you're playing and you don't. I don't know. I don't think it creates. But anyway, let's assume Konate Mumfield does not play. I think Tyreek Robinson would be the starter. Would that be your guess? Like with Kenny Johnson and Raphael Williams, would you guess that Tyreek Robinson starts?
I think so, because I think in that Boston College game and even the Louisville game, like Zion Fowler-El got a little bit of run, but they also said like Tyreek Robinson was hurt. And, he said today, like he's 100%, he tweaked his back, but he's 100%, he's good to go for the bowl game. We're going to turn him loose. And they kind of said mid-year, it's like you have these conversations, like, do we want to play him that fifth game or not? And, that was one of the things we asked Pat today. It's like, he's always been in favor of, let's not count the bowl game towards your eligibility. And they don't. He's like, that's one of the few things the NCAA has done right in the past 5 years, which he's not wrong on that. But, yeah, so I would think it's him. I don't, maybe Zion Fowler-El. I mean, I guess, Cam Montero didn't play that much this year. He's a freshman. You play him a little bit. But yeah, Lamar Seymour's already gone. He would be another one of those fringe receivers that would get, step into playing time. So Seymour.
I forgot that he went into the transfer portal. And Cameron Montero played at Boston College. How about that? I didn't even notice that. Did you notice that?
I didn't, but he is from Boston, so they probably that makes sense that that's a trip they would bring him on. They kind of rotate which freshmen go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess Robinson was right at 4 games. So, held him for injury or whatever, or trying to preserve the red shirt. But either way, he can play now. And so I think he'll be out there, particularly if Konate Mumfield's not there. I think he'll be out there and play a lot and be a regular contributor. Running back, I don't know. Like, it's a guess by both of us. Do you think Des Reed plays in this game?
I don't know. I mean, because I got the email today because Des Reed and Kyle Lewis both made some sort of All-American team. And the wording at the end of the email is and both players will lead the charge into Pitt's bowl game against the game above sports game against Toledo. So I don't know if that's an indication that they're going to play, but I think even after the Boston College game, I think Narduzzi said, like, I think Des will probably play. And because everyone was worried, they're like, oh, he's not at the game. He didn't even travel with the team. Did he go to the transfer portal? And it's like, no, he's just hurt. So, like, yeah. But I think they kind of tried to quell that and be like, oh, no, he'll be ready for the bowl game. So I would play him, but I would use him on a pitch count kind of thing. Like, you know, let him break a couple big runs. But I don't know. That might be the Joel's Goff game.
Yeah. I mean, might as well. Like, why not use Joel's Goff? I mean, give him a chance. You know, I don't think Derek Davis is going to be available. Montravius Lloyd went into the portal. So, I mean, you only have like 2 scholarship backs anyway, right? So you know, you might as well. I don't think you should play one guy the whole game. So you might as well rotate. And then quarterback, I don't know. I mean, you and I were both on the Zoom with Pat Narduzzi. He was being Pat Narduzzi. I don't really think Eli Holstein plays in this game. Do you?
I doubt it. I know, like, when the injury happened at Louisville, it looked ugly. It looked severe. It was like, oh, this is definitely season ending. And I don't think it quite was, but I also don't think they need to play him against Toledo on December 26th in a half full stadium at Ford Field against, you know, at 2:00 in the afternoon. So I wouldn't play him. So, which obviously means Pitt is going to start a walk-on in the bowl game. So that's another interesting little nugget.
Yeah, which makes you want to have Desmond Reed available more often, I would say. Yeah. I think you would want to have your best offensive player. Yes. Ideally both, but yeah. One or the other. All right, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, I guess the best you can say for some of these things is like, well, maybe you get a chance to see some younger players, you know, or maybe, you know, maybe it's just a chance to have finish the season with like a good taste in your mouth. If they go out and win and play well and look just like okay, you know what I mean? Like, because it's been a while since they played a game where they looked okay. The Clemson game would probably be the only one. You know, dating back to the 7-0 start, you know, since then it's pretty much one game where they've looked decent. And so maybe just having a decent game and ending on a win, breaking the losing streak. You don't carry a 6-game losing streak in the next year. Like, I know it's not worth anything. And there are people, you know, who've been commenting on stuff all week. Well, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change it. No, it's not going to change anything, but at least it's something, you know, like at least you have a little bit of something positive happening heading into next year. But speaking of positive things, I mean, I think some of the stuff that will encourage people the most is things like what Pitt Tough Guy asked about. He says, any word on how negotiations may be going with the Sharks? Rasheem Miles, Braylon Lovelace, Kyle Lewis, Jordan Bass. Your guess, how many Sharks sign with Pitt? Thanks. Yeah, so that's the there's 3 sides of the transfer portal, as we know, Jim. One is the players you lose, one is the players you add, and one is the players you hold on to. Did I forget any? Is there a fourth? Players you? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's it. I think it's that's pretty much it. And to some extent, like the players you hold on to, it's just as important as anything else you do in the transfer portal. And on this point, the linebackers, Jim, I don't know what you're hearing, but I think they go 4 for 4. I think they bring back every single one of these guys. I don't know if I would have believed that a month ago, but the more I'm hearing, I think those guys are pretty set. I think they're going to have all 4 of those linebackers back, which, I mean, look out. It's going to be a really good group. Is that more or less what you're hearing or expecting at this point?
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting all 4. And it just even on a bigger point, I'm thinking like most of the players, like if you went up and down the roster and you look like, I really want them to be on Pitt's team next year, I think they are. I think Pitt has 12 guys on the portal with the Ty Diefenbach addition a couple hours ago. How about that for a news dump? Like 2 minutes after Pitt volleyball wins, he hits send on the tweet. But yeah. Other than that, I really think like they haven't lost anyone of huge consequence yet, and I don't think they really are. I mean, you can never say never. Something can change in a moment's notice. We've seen that all week in the transfer portal. But yeah, as things stand today, I think all the players you would want on Pitt's team that are currently on the roster are still going to be there.
Yeah. It's remarkable. I went into this fully believing and expecting, well, they're going to lose 20 guys, and most of them will be guys who aren't doing much, but they're going to lose some guys you would rather not lose. Looks like that's not going to be the case, which is funny. It kind of runs against the narrative that, boy, when you lose 5 games in a row, everybody's going to run away from your team. But truth is, they've got something drawing these guys back. I think there's some culture elements. I think there's a good fit elements. I think they've been able to get the right NIL deals in place to hold on to guys. And it's pretty remarkable. And like that linebacking core should be pretty awesome, right? Because they were pretty good this year. And and this was, Biles' first year as a starter, Lewis's first year as a starter, Lovelace's first year getting that many snaps. Bass got more playing time than he got last year. I mean, and they were really good this year. They should be legitimately maybe the top linebackers, top group of linebackers in the ACC. I mean, is that going too far with that?
I don't think, because you're anchoring your unit with an actual All-American. Like, some of these teams are coming out this weekend. Like, Kyle Lewis is a second-team All-American, and for my money, I think he might slide on to a first team for one of them. I don't know which one, but I think there's 5 big All-American teams that we always watch out for. It wouldn't shock me if he gets first team on one of them. I think he's that good. I think he had that good of a season, and I don't know. We were banging our heads for months now trying to tell people that. So. Yeah, I mean, he's really good. Rasheed Biles, second team All ACC. He was, not that far behind. I think Lovelace is a good player. I mean, he did some really good things in that Syracuse game. He had one of those pick sixes. And, I think Bass got hurt. I don't know how many games he missed, but he started to come on. And even like a dude like Jeremiah Marslin, I think is going to be really good too. Like they've just been stacking linebacker classes for a while now. Cam Lindsey too. So, when you look at the transfer portal, like I was writing about it in the 3-2-1 column, it's like, what do they need? And they don't need a linebacker. Like, they don't need to do like the Key Thompson thing this year or Tyler Wiltz. Like, they don't really need that because they have enough good young players that are just good players in general. They don't need that extra boost. So linebacker is like the one thing you really don't have to worry about for next season.
Yeah. It's one position I would cross off and say, no, don't need it. Like every other position, they could probably use something, whether it's a backup or a starter, they could use something at every other position. But linebacker, they're pretty well set. Josh Newark wants to know, what's the latest on Cade Bell rumors, or are they done? I think they're done. I think he's here. Again, it's a caveat with every word we speak. Well, things could always change because things always could change. But I don't see Bell go anywhere. I think he's here for another year. Maybe not more than one, but at least one more year. And Josh also asked, is the Virginia quarterback a realistic possibility for a transfer? I don't think so. I think there was contact there, communication. But the reality is with quarterback, Pitt needs a backup. Pitt needs a backup. They don't need a starter. And so if Anthony Calandria wants to be a starter, Pitt is not the place for him. And he has to know that. Even if they're telling him, you're going to come in, you're going to compete, we're going to play the best guy. He's not an idiot. Well, he might be an idiot. I don't know. I don't know the man. But if he looks at it, what's that?
He went to UVA. He can't be that dumb.
That's true. So he's going to look at the depth chart and be like, you're going to play me over the guy who, won you 7 games as a starter before he got hurt. No, I'm pretty sure you're not going to do that. So, I think if Nate Yarnell was sticking around, I don't think they would feel the need to go looking for a backup quarterback in the portal. But once Yarnell left, I think it became something of a necessity. So if Anthony Calandria wants to be a backup or is content being a backup, sure. I just can't imagine that he is. He left the spot where he was the starter. He's not looking to be a backup, right?
I wouldn't think so. Like I said to someone the other day, like he should just go to a Sun Belt team, crush it for a year, then come back next year and try to get a Power 5 job. Like I don't, because like looking at the schools like he was tied to is like Pitt, Syracuse, and Ole Miss. Like Pitt doesn't need a quarterback. Ole Miss doesn't need a quarterback. Syracuse might not need a quarterback. I'm not exactly sure of their situation, but like it didn't really align with a guy that was looking for a starting job, the schools he was looking at. So I don't know. I think he's a good player. He kind of runs around and does some crazy things, and sometimes it works out for him, and maybe on a better roster, it would work out a little bit better for him than it did at Virginia. But I don't. Pitt definitely needs a quarterback. I just don't think it's going to be him.
Yeah, I agree. What was I just going to look up? I thought I was looking something there, but oh well. Green says, is Bill Belichick the best coach in the ACC now? Go ahead, Jim. You got any thoughts there?
It's funny to watch the NFL coverage of him taking a college job because they are acting like college football is like JV football and everyone's an idiot there. It's a completely different game. It is a totally different sport. And we've seen NFL guys try to come to the college ranks and struggle. It's a different thing. And he's never coached college football. As a college football head coach, you have to wear many hats. It's not just, I can sit here, be grumpy to the media and just watch film 20 hours a day, like what he did in New England. It's a different thing. Like he has to fundraise, he has to go out and recruit, he has to be a figurehead and coach football and do all that other stuff. And I don't know. I mean, it just feels like they're trying a different version of Mac Brown. Like I feel like North Carolina is for some reason like driving home that they need this old figurehead coach that's going to help them recruit, which Mac Brown did, and netted the results it did. So I don't know. I do not think he's like career wise. Yes, he's the best coach in the ACC. As a college football coach in 2025, I don't think he's the best.
Yeah. I like there's a world where Bill Belichick gets everything he wants. He hires 30 new assistants and gets all this NIL money, and he's able to build a real organization that does some of the college things, the recruiting, in particular the recruiting, to some extent the fundraising, and he's able to build an organization that does these things so he doesn't have to do some of those more sort of menial tasks that college coaches have to do. He might still have to go out and go into living rooms in December, although some of that period has been eliminated this year anyway. And he's able to run it like a pro organization and have people do some of those other tasks, in which case I could see that kind of working. He has sucked when he didn't have Tom Brady. How will he adapt to the college game? How will he do this? How will he do that? How will he coach when he doesn't have the greatest quarterback of all time? It's not like he has just gone from player to player and he's just been perfect no matter who he had out there. He's been terrible when he didn't have Tom Brady and they weren't like cheating their tails off and finding all kinds of different ways to like break the rules and get these extra advantages and stuff. And so I'm not entirely convinced that he's the greatest head football coach of all time. Now, I mean, I know, find me a good football coach who didn't have a great quarterback and all that stuff. But I mean, some guys have been able to move from one quarterback to another and sustain success and have success. Belichick's not that, and as a matter of fact, he's been really bad. And he had one opportunity. Is that what they're saying? Is some of the reports that he had one NFL interview this past offseason? Did you see something like that, or did I make that up? Or
I saw the headline of one article is oh, this is a big FU to the NFL, and I'm like, I don't really think the NFL cares.
Right. Yeah, I feel like there was something like the Falcons were the only team that would interview him or something like that. And okay, so if he's the greatest coach of all time, how is he not getting another opportunity? Because I have to think if there was any chance for him to coach in the NFL again, he would be doing that, not this. It's a step down for him. As people are pointing out, he's 15 wins away from setting the all-time mark or something like that. So, is he really that great a coach? He's pretty good. He's obviously got the rings to back it up, but I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced. And he might, probably the biggest element of college football that he's going to have to adapt to is dealing with 18-year-old knuckleheads. Now, maybe he builds an entire roster out of 21-year-old transfers, but and what's the difference between a 21-year-old transfer and a 22-year-old first-round draft pick? But having 105 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds as opposed to 53 guys where maybe 4 or 5 of them are 21 years old and some of them are as old as 32, it's a little bit of a different scenario. I could just see him being like, oh, this is BS. What am I dealing with here? I didn't want to sign. I didn't want to deal. I have to what? I have to. This guy's not going to class, and I have to do something about that. Do you think Josh Newark wants to know, do we think Terrence Moore is going to give Pat Narduzzi's secrets to Toledo since Moore seems is transferring to Toledo? I mean, I think this question's asked in jest. I don't think Terrence Moore is going to do that, but
do you remember the Duke game a couple years ago?
What's that?
You remember the Duke game a couple years ago? Carson Van Lin.
He accused Carson Van Lin of like, God.
So nothing's past Pat Narduzzi.
No,
he might throw the accusation out there. I doubt Terrence Moore's giving away state secrets, though.
Right. His paranoia knows no bounds. So, Green says, I would treat this game against Toledo like you would treat the first game of the season against Toledo. I'm playing my starter the first quarter and a half and then putting in players like Julian Duggar. I mean, you got to have a lead to do that, right? I mean, you got to build. Yeah. Like, you'd love every game to be a game where you can get your backups in, but you got to actually build that lead. And is David Lynch going to build that lead? Even if he has Desmond Reed, is David Lynch going to build that lead? And I'm not. That would be the ideal scenario, but I don't know if I think it's going to happen. Are you intrigued? I mean, do you want to see Julian Duggar? Ty Diefenbach's gone. Nate Yarnell's gone. It's Duggar and the walk-ons for this game, unless Eli Holstein can play. What's your level of interest in seeing Julian Duggar on the field?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like if they have a lead, then sure. But if it's like 10-10 at halftime, like I'm not just going to hand the keys to Julian Duggar. Be like, all right, it's your half to play. Like I still think you have to go with whoever is your starter, even if it's the third string guy. I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, I'd like to see him play, but it's nothing that's going to make my bowl experience any different. I mean, I don't know. Julian Duggar was kind of like, all right, we need a quarterback. We'll just take the local kid and see what happens. It's not like he was an intriguing prospect for me from the start.
Basketball question. Joey Deli wants to know, is Brandon Cummings the sixth man right now? I think so. I mean, until Damian Dunn comes back, as long as Zach Austin's in the starting lineup, Brandon Cummings is the sixth man. I think that's. Well, I guess after Dunn went out, they started Delalich, right? They started Amsal, and then Zach Austin was still the sixth man. But once they moved Austin into the starting lineup, then yeah, I would say Cummings is the sixth man, wouldn't you?
I would say so. I mean, I think he bought himself a lot of credibility because he's the one guy on that team that resembles a lock or a knockdown outside shooter. They don't have one on this roster. Like they don't have that, Ashton Gibbs or Blake Hinson or Greg Elliott. Like they don't have a guy that's just going to light them up for a night. You have guys that could go streaky, but he's a guy that, yeah, he could make 5 or 6 in a night if he's on a roll. Like at the end of the game, like he was shooting them, doing the Steph Curry, like running down the court before it even went in. Like I don't know if it's cocky, arrogance, whatever it is, but like I don't know. Sometimes good shooters just get on a roll, and I don't know. That might have been the game he needed.
I don't think it's a bad thing for him to be cocky or have some arrogance because I think it's confidence. You know what I mean? And I think he seems like a smart enough kid that if he starts missing, he's going to drop the cockiness and arrogance. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be like, oh crap, what's going on here? And so what do you do when Damian Dunn comes back? What, Coach Jim Hammett, Damian Dunn's healthy. Let's assume nothing changes in the Sam Houston game that changes our perception of Zach Austin, Brandon Cummings, or Amsal Dell or anybody. Right now, actually here, Damian Dunn's going to be back for the Sam Houston game. What's your starting lineup?
Lowe, Leggett, Dunn, Austin, whatever center's playing better that night.
Who goes out on the court first? Corin?
I guess right now would be Corin.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you done with Guillermo as a 4 and playing those two together?
Yeah. I think the experiment needs to end. He never played this poorly over the first 2 seasons. He was inconsistent. He would kind of, frustrate you at times, but he was still playing center. Like they still won a lot of games with him and Federico being a platoon center situation. And I think if he gets back to that, just kind of being comfortable with what he's done the first 2 years, I think a lot of things would pick up for him. I think some of the stretch elements would be there. Like right now he's expected to shoot threes, and he's having guys that can defend him to shoot threes. He kind of loses that advantage whenever a center is covering him, because like now the center has to come out and guard him, and it kind of opens up the whole offense. So I think if he gets back to playing center, I think if they drop the 2 center look or the 2 big guy look, I think they're just going to play better. I think things are going to flow better. I think Zach Austin's shooting well enough that, yeah, like I can live with him as that kind of stretch forward too. So yeah, I think they just kind of need to play a little bit smaller, and I think they'll play faster because of it.
But then what do you do when Austin needs a break? Is it Amsal? Like what's your option then? Jorge? Do you get Jorge on the court more? Like what's your option if you commit to that? Guillermo's just going to play the center as in a rotation with Corhen, and Austin's going to start at the 4. Who else do you play at the 4?
It's unfortunate because Corhen's just not a good rebounder. And so I initially I would say that let's play 4 guards, like to bring in Brandon Cummings and do a 4-guard lineup. But that kind of only works whenever you have a good rebounding center. Right now, Pitt doesn't. Like that's a big negative on the team right now. So I don't know. I don't know what the correct answer is on that with the Zach Austin dilemma. But hey, Jeff Capel makes a lot of money, and he gets to make those decisions.
But I mean, realistically, like, what are the options? It's Amsal and Jorge, right? Like of another guy to play that spot. I think that's one of the challenging things is like I'm with you. I'd like to start 3 guards, Austin and a center, but I just don't think you give yourself any room to move if or when the time comes that you have to pull somebody, when you have to like move around and get somebody else out there. I mean, last year it wasn't really an issue because Blake Hinson played so many minutes, and then you had Zach Austin there to step in for him. But I just don't know what you do unless you feel like Amsal can handle that spot. If you play 3 guards, Amsal and a center, is he there yet? Is he ready to play that spot yet, in your view?
I don't know. He just he played better on Wednesday. I think he had like 5 points, 5 rebounds, maybe an assist in 15 minutes. And like, that's kind of who he is right now. He still just looks a step slow on defense to like really be out there. Like, again, like this team just kind of stinks at rebounding. That's kind of a problem. Like their best rebounders are shooting guard. And that's,
yeah. So
Ishmael Leg is going to lead the team in rebounding back-to-back years. So I don't know. Like, I think that's just going to be an uphill battle they have to fight all year.
Yeah. Is it a freeze out with him? Like, why does the ball not go to Amsal?
I don't know. Like, it's like anytime he does something good, like everyone goes over and like gives him a high five, and like, like he hit a 3 the other game and all the guys are running down the court. Like they knew it was going in before he did. And it's like, why not just give him the ball when he's standing in the corner? Like you don't like, I understand, like, maybe you don't want him to dribble because he's had a couple turnovers that way, but like, I don't know. This team needs outside shooting, and him and Cummins are probably the 2 best at it. So when he's standing in the corner, I would have eyes on him.
Yeah. And like, I think it's to the point now where like Eastern Kentucky was like helping off of him because they're like, who cares? They're not going to pass it to him anyway. So like we don't need to really guard him out to the 3-point line because he's not going to get. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of times, I said this on the boards too, like there's a lot of times where like Jalen Lowe and Ishmael Leggett, like they bring the ball up the court and they're driving to the basket and there's nothing that could happen. There could be 7 guys standing in front of them and all of their teammates standing wide open on the perimeter, and they are not passing. They are going to the hoop. Like come hell or high water, it doesn't matter what happens. They are going to, and so they don't just freeze out Amsal. They freeze out everybody in those situations. They don't pass to anybody who's open in those situations. But it does seem like he is standing by himself a lot, just with nobody guarding him, and the ball doesn't come to him. And I wanted to ask Jeff Capel about this last night, but we ended up with the Guillermo question. I had to choose. Like, do I want to ask about why Amsal doesn't get the ball, or do I want to ask about why Guillermo can't make shots? And opted for the Guillermo question and got, I think, a great answer out of that. Chris Carter had a follow-up question and really good answer on that one too. I just don't get it because I think he can do more. I think Amsal can do more for this team. I think he can contribute more. He's just not getting the ball. Like it's the weirdest thing It's like, why don't you want to pass to this guy who can probably make shots? And it's just not happening. I think he has more to offer. So Dunn gets back. I mean, Lowe, Leggett, Dunn, Austin, the two centers. That's 6 guys. Cummings is 7, right? Amsal is probably guy number 8, right? Is the rotation cut off there? Do we put Papa Amadou Conti in there? Jorge doesn't crack that, does he?
I think those two are probably there just for fouls. But like, if Pitt does go back to bringing Guillermo off the bench and just having him play center, then that kind of just eliminates any minutes Papa would get. I don't know where the role would be for him if Pitt does go, back to basically the lineup they've been playing the past 2 years with like kind of the smaller, quicker power forward. They've won a lot of games with that philosophy. I think I think they're good enough they can win a lot of games with their current starting lineup, but I think once you hit that kind of mid-season wall in the ACC play and you're looking for something different, I think that's going to be a lineup he turns to, and I think they're going to have a lot of success with it.
I did the back of the paper, like the centers, like the center combinations, like when it was Guillermo and Corin together, just Corin, just Guillermo, just Papa Conte. And it's not perfect because Corin was on the court when they went on that big run. But I mean, with both centers together, Guillermo and Corin playing together, Pitt was +6, 22-16 total over 4 stretches in the game. With Papa Amadou Conti on the court, just by himself for 2 stretches, Pitt was +12. With Guillermo by himself, it was only 1 stretch, and it was only like 2 minutes or something. Pitt was -3. It was an 8-5 scoring advantage for Eastern Kentucky. Cam Corhin on the court by himself. And again, this was the long, like most of the 23-0 run. Pitt was +25. It was 47-22 with Corhin on the court by himself. But there's a lot that goes into that. One of the biggest things that during that 23-0 run is Eastern Kentucky missed a ton of shots. They missed like 9 in a row at one point. It made like 5 out of their final 25 shots in the final 14 minutes of the game and didn't get many offensive rebounds, whereas in the first half they'd gotten a lot of offensive rebounds. So maybe Pitt's rebounding improved a little bit. I just don't know what the answer is because, like, Guillermo has taken a lot of heat, as you know, on the boards and on Twitter and all that stuff. It's not like Cam Corhin is playing any better. He's really, like, he's not doing that. Guillermo's rebounding. He's got more rebounds than Corhin. He's got the threat of shooting from outside. Like Cam Corhin, like, I don't know what's missing. Toughness. I'm not sure what's missing from his game, but he's just not. He's as much of an issue, I think, right now as Guillermo is. That's why I sort of refer to it as like the center issue more than the Guillermo problem or it's an issue with this whole position. And I don't know what the right answer is. Like we talk about move Guillermo back to center. Okay. Still, I don't know if that solves any issues. Maybe it improves the power forward spot because you're going to play Zach Austin there all the time. But then you still got to find, like we said, you got to find somebody to back him up. So I don't know. Like, I don't think there's any good issue. Corrin's been a disappointment. I really had high expectations for him this season, and he has just not lived up to it.
Yeah, he had a couple of good scoring games right off the bat, and then like that was a welcome sight. He had more, I think, he had 7 double-digit scoring games to start the year, but he's done nothing in the 4 games since, and the 4 games since, for the most part, have been against Pitt's better competition. In Pitt's 2 losses, he's played 53 minutes against Wisconsin and Mississippi State. He's grabbed a total of 4 rebounds. Like Mississippi State out-rebounded Pitt 49-27, I believe the number was. So that's just, they're getting crushed on the glass. It's noticeable, and it's going to be tough whenever, they'll beat Sam Houston State next Saturday, and I'm sure they're going to be favored to beat Cal and Stanford, but like, things are going to get real on January 7th in Cameron Indoor Stadium, because like Duke has a lot of athletic big people. Not that like Duke normally cares about Pitt, but like, Blake Hinson kind of left them a nice parting gift by standing on the table. So like they're really going to want to beat Pitt. So it's going to be that's going to be quite a test for them.
He hit 5-5 against Eastern Kentucky. Like, I expect a lot more than 5-5. All right. We got a lot of comments and questions here. We'll try and bang through as much as we can. Mike S. wants to know, where is Caleb Holmes in the 2 deep next season? I still think Holmes is probably going to be pretty good, but I don't know if he'll be if Pitt's able to recruit from the transfer portal the guys that they want. I don't know if a redshirt freshman will be in the 2 deep. I think that's what got them into trouble this year, was having to rely on young, inexperienced players like that. So I don't know if he'll be in the 2 deep, but I still think he'll be pretty good, don't you?
I think there's a chance he would be the number 2 center next year, because he started he worked at center a little bit during camp, and I think that's a good avenue for him to play. It's, Lyndon Cooper has 1 more year, and he's a starting center in 2 seasons, so I think that's a plausible path for him.
Yeah. Green says, sounds like Pitt donors need to get a bowl game at PNC Park. And ZC717 says, well, there are bowl games at Yankee Stadium and Fenway, so that would be cool. Actually, no, it wouldn't be cool. Football games at baseball stadiums suck. That is not a good idea. It doesn't work out well for anyone. Nobody likes it. I think the teams hate it. Like at Fenway, and I don't remember if it was this way at Yankee Stadium, but I think at Fenway, the teams are on the same sideline.
Yeah.
Like if you see, like, it's terrible sight lines. It's a terrible place. Like, geographic, like where PNC Park is located, that will be great because of the view of the city. Everything about having a football game there will be terrible. Don't do it. All right. Lots of jokes about this happening, and I'm not into it. Brock01 wants to know, will there be a full rundown on the Lair of who's visiting this weekend? I mean, we're trying to keep up with it. It changes. Like, literally, a guy will say, I'm visiting this weekend, and like an hour later, we find out he's not visiting this weekend. Like, we're trying to stay as up to date on these things as we can, Jim. But like, there's only so up to date you can be until they actually like get here on campus. So a guy could tell us right now, like my watch is buzzing. Some guy might have just sent me a DM saying, I'm going to be at Pitt this weekend. Cool. By tomorrow, it might turn out that he's not, And so, yeah, we'll have a rundown of everything we're able to confirm, and then we'll go from there, because sometimes I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I posted about the one lineman visiting, and someone's like, no, he's visiting Syracuse this week. And I'm like, no, he's visiting both places this weekend. So it's like, some guys are like coming in for a couple hours and going to the next school. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast right now. You kind of want to get your spot because it just feels like you have to.
Eric Rogers says, for the most part, I don't think we lost anyone significant to the transfer portal, but I do think Dejon Reynolds could have helped us. He looked good in his limited time. Your thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. I think Dejon Reynolds should have been used more. I think he could have been used more. I think he could have helped this team win more games. I think I would think, Jim, one of the biggest reflections on this offense, when they sit back and they self-scout and evaluate everything after the season, they have to look back and say, did we get the most out of our receivers? Did we target the right guys? Did we get the right guys involved? And we get the most out of our passing game with regards to the receivers? And I think Dejon Reynolds is one of those guys who could have done a lot more and should have done a lot more, but just never got the opportunity.
No, I think we talked about this last week. I was like, of all games for it to stand out, it was like, oh yeah, Kenny Johnson and Mumfield were the best receivers, and maybe they kind of spent too much time equalizing them with Poppy Williams and CJ Lee. Sometimes your best players are just your best players, and I don't know if they got everything they should have gotten from the receivers this year.
Duggar Boys 79 says, on one hand, this is a meaningless game. Now you need a lead to get Julian Duggar in the game. Wow, the bias and hate is real. Well, I don't have bias and hate against Julian Duggar. I've been praising him quite a bit ever since he committed. I think what I'm saying, as far as, you need a lead in order to get Julian Duggar in, is the coaches aren't going to, even if it is a meaningless game, right? Even if it's a bowl game that doesn't mean anything, it doesn't really reflect on the season because your roster is different and all those things, they're still not going to treat it like a scrimmage, where they're just rotating like that. They're still going to try to win. And that's not to say that Julian Duggar can't give Pitt a chance to win. It's just to say that they're going to go with the guys who they feel like can master the offense the best or run the offense the best. And And it doesn't just apply to Julian Duggar. It's, Caleb Holmes just got mentioned. Like, Caleb Holmes is not going to go into this game until or if it's a blowout game. A younger guy like that is not going to play until the game is sort of out of reach, just like it would be during the regular season. That's how the coaches are going to approach it. And so our perception of what this game means is probably different than what it means for the coaches and players. They're not going to they're not going to approach it like that. Be like, okay, we're going to get 20 snaps for the ones and 20 snaps for the twos and 20 snaps for the threes. That's not, coaches aren't wired to think that way. And I think they would feel like that's sending the wrong message to do that anyway. I'd be interested in seeing Julian Duggar, but again, I don't think it would happen until, things get, a little bit out of reach. I do need to mention real quick about our good friends at homefieldapparel.com. Jim, you're not wearing a home field shirt, are you?
Oh, wow.
Are you wearing your University of Delaware shirt is a home field shirt. That is excellent. Is that a long sleeve or a short sleeve?
Long sleeve.
Very long sleeve. That is good stuff. Listen, don't forget, promo code Pitt24 gets you 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. You can get some great Pitt gear, some great Delaware gear, some great pretty much any school in the country. And it's awesome stuff. It's great material. It's super comfortable. It looks great. Promo code Pitt24 gets you 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. Now, Jim, you made a mid-match prediction about the Pitt women's volleyball team today when they were leading Oregon 2-1, right? Pitt was up by a set, and it was the fourth set, which was the Panthers' worst set of the day. And I believe you felt like things were not going the Panthers' way and that the Ducks would take a win. What changed between that and Pitt winning in the fifth set?
I think it was just a really good team, just turning it on when they had to, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a volleyball expert, but I was just kind of looking at the game. I was like, wow, and maybe that's just me not appreciating the fact of what they've done the past couple of years, like how hard this is supposed to be. Like whenever they're kind of struggling for a little bit, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with them? But I'm like, Oregon's good. Like it's hard. Like there's a lot of good teams. It's hard to win in the NCAA tournament in any sport. So I don't know. I think whenever I just saw the first signs of struggle and they looked so bad in the fourth set, I was like, man, I don't know. So yeah, maybe it's just me not appreciating that. They're going to have down stretches in some of these games because teams like Oregon are really good.
Well, it's funny because the third set, I think they won 25-16 or something like that. They were really in control. Yeah, but the road gets tougher. The road gets tougher as they go. We'll see if Kentucky provides a 5-set challenge for the Panthers as well. But I mean, they're still on track. So it's fifth straight Elite Eight for Pitt. Chance to go to the Final Four for the fourth season in a row. And Josh Newark says, all aboard the volleyball hype train. I think it's growing. I didn't see. Hold on, I have the box score here. The attendance was announced at 5,279. That's too bad. But it was also 3:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday. You chalk it up to that? Do you think what would you expect for attendance on Saturday, Jim?
I would think closer to 8,000 or 9,000.
Yeah,
Saturday after what is it, Saturday 5:00?
I think so. Yeah, 5:00.
Yeah, they usually draw well on weekends, and this is a huge match. And I don't know if some Kentucky fans will make the drive up from Lexington or not, but yeah, it'll be more than whatever you just said. I forget the number. 5,000,
I think is what they announced it at. I mean, win or lose, this is the last match at home for the season. You know what I mean? If you have had even a passing interest in Pitt volleyball this year, this is your last chance to go see them. And so I think that might draw some interest. It should. They're the best team on campus right now and the most exciting team on campus right now. They're ridiculously athletic. They're a lot of fun to watch, and they're they're also winning and super successful and being really, really good. All right. I think that's about it. Is there anything we forgot to cover, Jim?
No, I'm gonna log off and kind of learn about the title sponsor of the bowl game. I'm going to the bowl game. Do I get a swag bag from Game Above or whatever? Probably not.
I don't know what that would consist of.
Yeah, because I don't know what they do.
Yeah, right. That's the hardest thing is they are completely like you're going to log off and try to learn about them, but you won't. Anthony Tennyson jumped in as a super chatter right before we go. They need to use Cam in the post up more. Well, like I guess, but then they got to get the ball to him and he has to catch it. Like 2 of Guillermo Diaz-Graham's turnovers last night were passes where he tried to throw it into the post to Cam Corrin. Now he was trying to make a pass like he was Jalen Lowe or something like that, forgetting A, that he's not Jalen Lowe, and 2, that he's not passing to someone who's likely to catch that pass, and they turned into turnovers. But I don't know what the solution is. Like, I think, okay, like, yeah, use Corrin to post up more, but he's got to be, like, tough and physical. He's got to be able to, he's got to be, like, he's got to battle and grind down low, and I just don't think we've seen that out of him. So I like the idea, Tony, but I'm just not sure if they can pull it off. They're, 11 games into the season now? So I'm not saying we know entirely who this team is, but we've got some idea. And, particularly with regards to that position, I think it's unfortunate, but I think we do have a sense of who they are. All right. I think that about does it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com so you don't miss any of our Pitt video content. Glad everybody could chime in and hang out on a Thursday night as opposed to a Wednesday night when we usually do it. It was a lot of fun as always. We'll have lots of coverage of the transfer portal, basketball, and everything else on Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you stay tuned there, Panther-Lair.com. Jim, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Thursday night. Enjoy your Friday. We'll have the Morning Pit mailbag for you tomorrow. We'll be back to, I think we'll be back to a regular Wednesday night next week. So like and subscribe. Have a good Thursday night, and we will catch up with you tomorrow for the Morning Pit on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.